the non-white fishes, I think, pair up a little bit better with the mustard. If you're going to go with white, maybe like a Chilean sea bass. If you're going to do a grilled Chilean sea bass and you want to bring in that barbecue flavor, that's where your mustard-based sauce is going to be really nice. So those are the first two. Is we have our mayo base with the Alabama style, our mustard base with the Carolina style. For the third one is our tomato base. And you know, I don't want to get no controversy with whether Memphis, St. Louis, whatever it may be. Tonight we're doing a Kansas City style tomato-based barbecue. And again, the Kansas City style is going to be a little bit thinner than some of the other tomato-based sauces. For this particular one, we did the tomato sauce, and then we split cider vinegar, brown sugar, and the molasses is what's going to set it apart from the others. So we're bringing in that next flavor profile that's going to take away the bitterness of the tomato, take away some of that, smooth it out, you know, between the sugar, the molasses. It's going to add that next dimension. It's going to essentially make the difference between a tomato sauce and your barbecue sauce. In this one, we also added a little bit of garlic, onion, and celery. This is a personal thing, but if you're working on a sauce recipe and it calls for an onion powder or garlic powder, I think it's really nice to use the fresh ingredients, kind of figure out what the equal amount would be and soften them up a little bit in a pan with some light oil and pulse them real quick. This one is the only one of the three we're actually going to simmer for a little bit as well, because we want all those flavors to gel really nicely. We want them to blend, and some of that, the garlic and the onion, some of those additional spice ingredients are going to start to get fragrant during that process. This one, for the flavor profile, does require a little bit more. Again, a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of black pepper. So there's some additional spices that really give it that difference between this is a barbecue sauce versus this is just a vinegar down tomato sauce. So these are the three core, what would fall under the category of barbecue sauce. You know, you have your white, mayo base, your mustard base, your tomato base. On the recipe sheets that you guys are going to come up for, all these foundations are in there. You'll be able to try each one. I like my sauces with a nice tang. Those will be reflected in these particular recipes. So to go on with some other elements, because we're not, we're barbecuing and we're out, but we're going to be creating other dishes as well that might require something other than this. We're not always in the mood to do something that might be a little heavier, especially with the heat waves we've been having. So I wanted to show you guys a fourth sauce that's just killer to have in your backlog of sauces, and that's a good fruit-based gastrique. That's a fruit and vinegar reduction. Essentially, the one that I did tonight is a strawberry and basil gastrique. You're going to have the foundation recipe. You can switch any fruit with any pairing that you want. Some that I really like to do are an apricot and cardamom, blueberry and lavender, orange and mint. These are all really killer fruit and herb combos for a gastrique. These are going to come in ultra handy if you're doing a grilled or seared scallops, or if you're doing any of the grilled seafoods, duck. If you're doing a nice duck breast, the strawberry gastrique is going to, if I'm making anything strawberry, it's because I have duck on my mind. 100%. The gastrique is going to start off with water, sugar, super simple. You're going to, over the stove, that's all going to combine. The sugar is going to dissolve, and a little bit of juice. In this particular one, we're using apple juice. When everything's dissolved in this particular batch, and this is what the batch yielded. We used 2 cups of fresh strawberries, really chopped up. Those are going in your sugar water fruit juice blend, and they're just going to simmer 45 minutes. Any of your herbs or spices you want to incorporate at this time too. Again, in this one we have a little bit of cayenne powder, white pepper, and the basil leaf. For this we put 6 basil leaves in, and it's just to pull out those flavors and give something to complement the strawberry. Everything's going in right there, 45 minutes simmered. You're just letting all the flavors pull out of your herb, all the flavors and sugars pull out of your fruit. When that's done, you're going to add a half cup. Again, we use the white balsamic. I love the white balsamic if I'm using a vinegar, and especially in something like this. But now you can switch up too. Again, specifically with this recipe, you try a cider vinegar. If you're doing, the blueberries with cider vinegar is really nice. If you're doing a darker fruit, maybe a pomegranate, use a wine vinegar. The wine vinegar is exceptionally a little more tart. You might want to cut that with a little more if you're heavier on your juice, lower on your vinegar. But after it's been simmering and all the flavors have been coming out, we're adding our half cup of the white balsamic, turning it up, let it come to a boil, put it on simmer and let it sit for another 45 minutes. Let it reduce down to about half, and then strain it. Strain out all your whole elements, put it into whatever. Now, you don't have to strain it. Optionally, if you want it a little bit thicker, you can pulse it, keep all those ingredients inside. I like to strain it, get kind of a thinner sauce, more of a drizzle. This is, a simple gastrique. I mean, well, one, it's impressive for your company, but it's also just super simple, super versatile, and you're going to find a lot of uses having that one in the back. The next one that I want to talk about briefly goes back to regional is Baltimore Tiger Sauce. One of the things that we specialize in at the Smorgasburg event is we do a Baltimore style pit beef. Pit beef, that's barbecue for Baltimore. You're not going to find your smoked ribs, you're not going to find your brisket, you're going to find pit beef. It's bottom round, it's been seasoned for 3 days, open air charcoal grilled, sliced ultra thin, and it's traditionally served on a Kaiser roll with white onion and a tiger sauce. Tiger sauce is essentially mayo and horseradish. That's your base. 1 cup mayo, half cup horseradish. This is very similar to our signature version. We add a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of white pepper, a little bit of coriander, and a little bit of pureed jalapeno. So this is going to be something different. You could use it on your sandwiches. It's not going to have the same applications as our 3 original sauces, where you can use as a mop, where you can use to mix in the end, where you can use to soak a little bit, or in your final hour of smoking for wetness. So it's more limited in use, and it's specifically targeted towards a specific dish, but it's ultra tasty, and I wanted to include that as well tonight, because just to kind of touch on the difference between regional barbecue. Baltimore, it's way out there from the rest of the world. They're just doing something so totally different. The last quick one and that I'm going to make really right now is a white remoulade sauce. And this is my go-to recipe for poor boys. No matter what you're doing, if you want to kind of have it a little more laid back, or you're putting something on rolls, get your lettuce, get your pickle, get your tomato, and make a po' boy. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be chicken, it could be beef, it could be shrimp, it could be anything. The key elements to a po' boy sandwich is your remoulade sauce, your tomato, pickle, lettuce, and a good roll. My personal favorite for this sauce is actually a duck po' boy, a seared duck po' boy. One of my favorites to make. So just to throw one together, so we have a little more. So I'm doing something instead of just dialogue. You want it for the white remoulade. You want to start off with the bunch scallions. You're gonna chop it fine, but only the whites. You really want the bottom whites. Reserve your greens for either garnish or something different at the end, but you want to really just chop all those whites, and you're going to use 1 bunch. We're going to use 2 cups of mayo in this one. Then our ultra key ingredient is 2 nice tablespoons of a good fruit-based hot sauce. We're going to use one of our Trinidad scorpion sauces, which is on the higher heat scale, but it's going to kind of blend with those flavors. It's going to bring it to life a little bit, and the heat's not going to be that bad once it's in there. So we'll load that up in there. We got a little bit of salt in there. We're going to use a little bit of white pepper. Again, And this is just a personal thing. I mean, there is something conceptually to the flavors. You know, white pepper I think is a much smoother flavor. It has a nice, more of a bright flavor to me than the black peppers. I'm a big fan of white pepper. If something calls for pepper, I'm either splitting black and white or I'm going all white. This being a predominantly white remoulade, I'm going with white pepper again, and that's kind of just a personal aesthetic element. We're also going to use our white balsamic. About 2 tablespoons of that. I like a little ancho powder in there as well because that's going to pair up give it a little bit of smokiness. It's going to pair up with the Trinidad scorpion peppers that we're using in the hot sauce. A little bit of a Cajun spice, just about half a teaspoon just to fill it out. And then we're going to finish it up with some lime juice. In this recipe, it would be the juice of 1 lime. And that's just going to keep that tartness going, keep it really bright, really vibrant, and it's going to pair up really nicely with your other ingredients. And that's that. That's just a simple, you know, a lot of remoulade sauces are going to call for a little bit of mustard powder. They're going to call for a lot of other ingredients. But the key to this one is your white scallion, your mayo, your vinegar.